welcome to Deep Look. This is a live Twitter Spaces version. It's my first time checking out Twitter Spaces. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. I am not joined by Keith Rayner today, and I'm very happy to share the news why. On May 26th, Miles James Rayner was born. 6 pounds, 13 ounces. I just talked to Keith earlier today, and he and his wife, Julia, just got home earlier this afternoon, and their little one is doing well, and they're back at home with Julia's parents, and I just couldn't be more excited to say congratulations to him and to the entire Rayner Redmond family for a new little baby. I think this is the first child of the Ultiworld team. As you know, we've all kind of started out in our early 20s, and Keith got married a couple years ago, and now we have a new little one with us. Again, Miles James Rayner, 6 pounds, 13 ounces. So awesome. Congratulations to him, and he'll be away from the show here for a few weeks while he's off on paternity leave. Ultimate is, we've kind of been in this little bit of a hiatus for the last few weeks, and we're getting ready to get things going. I mean, you're starting to see club team tryouts get posted. You're seeing, of course, we have the AUDL starting now a week from today. The first game that will have the opening poll will be the New York Empire facing the DC Breeze in New York. And I'll be at the game, going to be producing the game. So I'm really excited to be back out there for the first truly competitive Ultimate happening in the U.S. in basically, over 13 months. So that's going to be very cool. And in other news this week, USA Ultimate announced some changes to the mask mandate. We did discuss this on the show recently. The basic kind of quick version of the new protocol is that if an organizer of an event that has participants from out of state wants to, they can allow vaccinated players and players who have presented a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours to compete without a mask. So this is not a full rescinding of the mask mandate, but nor is it keeping it in full place. Will be interesting to see, what happens with the various large-scale tournaments that are scheduled. We've got the Pro Elite Challenge lined up for mid-July. What we don't know yet what the rules are going to be for that particular event and what's going to happen with players and their decisions around it. I think it'll be interesting to see if the players. Here's the thing. I think probably 90% plus of players at these events are going to be vaccinated. I think Ultimate is going to be a population that has very high vaccination rates. That's both based on sort of intuition, but also just talking to people around the community. I mean, it's a college-educated, upper class, and generally liberal crowd. Those things are going to correlate pretty heavily to getting vaccinated. So it'll be curious to see, what level of unmasked competition there is for events starting, in the next couple of weeks. I mean, the club season's basically underway, starting, I think, next week. That's the primary news this week. Also, USA Ultimate updated their club guidelines, and the World Club Championships qualification process is going to be the same as it is in most years, which means that it's going to the WUCC slots are going to go to the teams that finish at the top of nationals. And so that will be very interesting to see what kind of effect that has on team participation. Because, there's been lots of rumors of teams not playing this season. Now, all of a sudden, if you're one of the top teams and you're thinking about not playing, well, now if you don't play, you're not going to have an opportunity to qualify for next summer's World Club Championships. And I think that that's probably going to be a carrot that at least gets some teams off the fence and deciding to play the series, if not more than that. So I'm just coming back from vacation, by the way. Apologies for the late show this week. I was in Colorado with my brother. We were skiing at Arapahoe Basin, late spring skiing. And I'll tell you what, it felt like normal times. It was strange. There's no mask mandate in Summit County, Colorado anymore. And so you could go into the grocery store if you're vaccinated with no mask. And people were packed in the bars and restaurants at the ski resort. It was joyous. You know, I talked to a guy at the bar who's like, I haven't been here in over a year. And he was sitting just having a beer and people, you know, chatting, happy, friendly. It's very cool. It's very cool to feel like things are starting to reemerge. So just really appreciate the opportunity to, you know, take a vacation again. It's been a while. And it's nice to get a little time off before things get busy this summer. So the goal of this show, by the way, thanks to those of you who are joining me here, is to have some folks pop in, ask questions, give thoughts, give takes in a radio show kind of a format. You know, we do call it a weekly radio show, and it's always been my dream to get call-in segments. And we can do that here on Twitter Spaces. So if you want to say, if you have any questions, if you want to give a thought or ask me a question, you know, you don't have to dial the phone number. All you got to do is raise your hand in the Twitter Spaces app, and I can bring you in as a speaker. I'm new to the Twitter Spaces app as well, so I'll kind of check it out here. But if you want to say anything, just let me know, and you can jump in. I see a couple folks in here who I might want to just try to bring in. Alex Rubin is in here. Alex, I'm gonna invite you to speak, and we can talk a little AUDL stuff. You don't have to jump in if you don't want to, but if you're in a situation where you can talk and not just listen, let's talk some AUDL. All right, I think I've got Alex now in here. Alex, can you hear me?
There we go. I think that just worked.
I think it did. I hear you. Happy Friday. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah. End of a solid work week. Me and Chris McGlynn actually just finished recording the subscribers only segment for our next All 7, so that should be coming out pretty soon. Very nice.
Very nice. For those that don't know, Alex Rubin is our lead AUDL reporter. So we're a week away, Alex. You know, I don't want you to spoil your whole podcast this week, but what's on your mind as we head into the first AUDL game in well over a year and almost 2 years? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting to be watching, live Ultimate again. I also coach a high school team. We had our first game and only game last weekend. So it's like just such a, I don't know, like exhilarating experience, maybe I want to say. But it'd be cool definitely to see more higher level Ultimate. And I was just on a call a little while ago with some league broadcasters also talking about how to make the product more easier to watch for the listeners at home. So if you don't subscribe to AUDL TV, there'll be a lot of good stuff on there also. But yeah, I've seen, a lot of good teams practicing on social media and talking to contacts around the league. People are pretty excited. And hopefully, I think, the level of play might be higher than expected since teams have been able to practice a little bit more than we thought they might back in March.
I mean, it seems to me that we've seen teams practicing for 6 weeks at this point, in some cases longer. And I think a lot of players also, they kept their training up over the I don't want to say the off season, throughout the pandemic. I don't think that's true universally, but I think a lot of people who are really serious about being able to get back and play at a high level, continue to train, continue to try to keep their throws sharp. And, I don't expect necessarily to see a, championship level play out of the gate, but I also think that sort of rumors that it's going to be total sloppy, disastrous Ultimate is probably overstating it. Players have been able to, speaking in New York City, players have been playing pickup and mini and Gultimate, outside of even New York Empire practice for honestly for months at this point. So I'm excited to see what it all looks like. And we got this first broadcast coming up in literally just over 7 days from right this minute, Friday evening. Alex, just really quick, I want to get your take. If you have to pick your champion this year right now, and I'm sure you got it on the show, who you taking to win the AUDL this season?
Yeah, that's pretty helpful. Actually, we didn't make predictions yet. We're going to do a show like right before the season. I think that's going to have all of those in there. I think the consensus favorites will be San Diego, Dallas, Chicago, Raleigh, New York. My guess is one of those teams will win the title. Without seeing Chicago with their new roster on the field, it's tough to pick them. But they're certainly like in the conversation. I think it's very possible Raleigh pulls it off this year. I think they're have a bunch of new players coming into the Flyers that have all kind of played together in the North Carolina youth scene, and with UNC Darkside and Ring of Fire, and they haven't had as much success in the AUDL. But given that it'll be like their main focus, at least for the early part of the year, I think that this could be their year. So maybe not the consensus favorites, but I'll give it to Raleigh for right now.
And outside of the AUDL, I just want to temperature check. You live in Los Angeles. What's the scene like in terms of getting prepared for potential league play? And what are club teams doing in your area, to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, I think a bunch of pickup games started opening up in the past month. There's a good amount of people going to those. There's been a few club interest forums with open practices or open tryouts coming up mid-June or so. So I think things are starting to kind of get together. People are still maybe a little bit more cautious. I know LA Out, the LA organization of Ultimate Teams, is our local disc org, is not hosting a summer league, but has been talking about getting field space for either organized pickup or drills or something like that. So it's maybe a little slower than some vaccinated players would like, but definitely things are picking up. And if you would have told me in January that we'd be on fields by June, I would have been thrilled.
It's a good point. Similar story here in New York. There's the Disc New York has been hosting kind of organized pickup is probably the best way to put it. They got a field permit. They're letting people sign up and come and play out at Brooklyn Bridge Park. And what I think is sort of like a kind of a stepping stone towards having leagues this summer. And I really hope we see leagues get started this summer. I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I mean, a lot of Ultimate players, at least in New York City, are fully vaccinated at this point. I've been playing mini up here in Inwood, where I live, for 2 months, and we've now stopped wearing masks because everybody's vaccinated. So I'm hoping that leagues will get up and running here in the next few weeks, and we will see. Thanks a lot, Alex, for stopping in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good. And I think it's my first Deep Look appearance, so I'll add that to my career resume.
Well, I know you've accepted the challenge, the Stall 7 versus Deep Look challenge for the AUDL. We will announce terms on that and make our initial picks this week on the show. So I'm glad you guys are up for it.
It sounds good. We had a good discussion about what the stakes might be, so get ready for that.
I love it. We will record this week. All right. Thank you, Alex. Floor is open here. If you want to jump in, you can make a request. Floor is open. We can talk AUDL. We can talk club. We can talk post-pandemic Ultimate. Thinking about club season, I just looked at this. The Pro Elite Challenge team list is out there now. There's a Google Doc that lists, who's in, who's out. And actually, I just pulled the link up again. Here's a latest list of teams going to the Pro Elite Challenge, right? This is real time. I just pulled this up, and it was last updated, looks like maybe yesterday afternoon. So who knows, there may still be changes as of today, but not updated yet. So I'll start in the men's division. Here are your teams that are confirmed to be in: Sockeye, Pony, Johnny Bravo, Condors, Clutch, Black Market, Inception, and Mallard. So you got 4 Nationals teams and 4 not. A lot of top teams have declined bids. Still waiting to see whether Sub-Zero is going to go. Furious George currently listed as not having committed one way or the other yet. I would be very surprised if they came. Getting across the border is challenging right now. So we're probably going to see the bottom of this tournament fill out with select level teams, maybe even classic level teams. But Sockeye Pony, Johnny Bravo, and Condors are going to be out in Colorado competing. In the mixed division, you've got Shame, Columbus Cocktails, Moondog, Loxa, No Touching, Toro, Love Tractor, Lotus, Flight Club, and CLX. So that's what? Is that 10 teams right now? Not bad. I mean, again, you've only got 4 Nationals teams from last year, but Loxa, Love Tractor, No Touching, CLX, Lotus, I mean, those are all top 30, top 40 teams in the country. So looking like that will be a competitive division. And then we have the women's division, which right now has Small Batch from Denver. And that is it. That is it. Most of the teams that went to Nationals last year have declined to bid. I know Molly Brown is not going, even though they're in the area. I honestly, I do not know whether we're going to get a full. I mean, I find it very unlikely we're going to see a 16-team division, and I honestly wonder if we're even going to get a tournament in the women's division. And this tracks with what we've seen in terms of sort of team interest and where teams are at right now. There's just been a lot more. It's been a lot slower in the women's division for teams to start to feel like they're ready to get back out and, travel to play. So I think we'll see that more later this year. But right now, just one team in the women's division for Pro League Challenge. Mixed looking like it might even fill up. And men's currently sitting at 8 teams. And we'll see, it's the bid list has gone all the way down to the 44th team so far. That's Mallard, who accepted. Perhaps we'll get some more teams. I don't know if we'll get to 16. So interesting to see. Looks like we've got a request here from Jared. What's up, Jared? Can you hear me?
Hey, Charlie. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am an Ultimate player. Rest assured, I'm not going to troll you. No problem here. Hey, so I had a question for you. I live in Tulsa and was talking to a couple of my friends as they were preparing for their summer league drafts and, talking about how you would prioritize forming a team as you came out of, 18 months of being off. And, my opinion was that I would be trying to acquire as much talent and put them on the offensive side, just because as a player, I think I would much rather be controlling the pace and controlling the action as opposed to having to, be reactive on the defensive side. Especially just, you have to assume, at the league.
We lost you, Jared. Well, I'll jump in. I think there he is.
Club season. I guess my question for you was: Do you think this season for the club division, do you think teams that prioritize success on the offensive side and more just managing, controlling the chaos on the defensive side will be more successful than teams that really lean on, their defensive prowess and strategy? Kind of how do you see that playing out this year?
Man, that is such a good question because, I haven't even started to think that much about strategic decision making yet because it's more been about are we even going to have people playing? But I think fitness is going to be down for a while. I mean, even though I did say earlier, people have been training, there's a real difference between staying physically fit and playing, Ultimate, particularly in the tournament format that club brings to the table. And as a result, I think defenses are probably going to be weaker relative to their offensive counterparts, just given the nature of the game. So yes, I think having a strong O-line is probably the optimal situation this year, but a lot of it's going to come down to individual team decision-making. If a team is only going to be playing in the series and they're practicing once a month, I don't really know if you can generate a lot of offensive chemistry from that. So you honestly just think, okay, well, let's just train up really hard, get everybody in great shape, and hope that we can win with our defense. On the other hand, if you're a team that's going to be practicing weekly, or if you're playing in the AUDL, let's say, as mostly the team that will compete in the club season as well, you have more opportunity to get those reps in that I think you really need to be a successful offense. I'm curious, Jared, what do you think? Like if you're a club team that's kind of just having a what we'll call a relatively normal season, like do you see a balance one way or the other?
Yeah, so my question came actually, about a specific team. There's going to be a bunch, I think, of club teams that just pop up for this year, right? Teams that, like you said, are put together, have, a couple mini camps, and they're going to show up to the series and try and make a push for nationals just in this weird year. So as you're formulating a team there, you've got all these different parts that may not have played together or, been in as a group, been in the same system. So how do you put them on the offensive side or the defensive side? And so it's my opinion, as somebody that I'm a defensive player, historically over the past couple of years, but I would be loading up my O-line. I don't think the throwing chemistry is going to be there. The throwing skill is going to be, I think we're going to see a ton of turnovers early in the season that'll, probably get short up as the year goes on and people get more fluid and back in the action. But I would want to load up my O-line, score every time that they get on the field, and then just kind of depend on the defensive side, kind of depend on the other teams making mistakes and being able to capitalize on those. I think that would be, if I were a coach or a captain, that would be my decision making as we get, back into Ultimate this year.
Well, I'm excited to see what all happens with it. I think, as is often the case, individual teams are going to have their own plan one way or the other. But look, at the end of the day, you look at the teams that win club nationals, and they're generally the teams with the best offense. And yes, like defense is really important, but a super potent O-line, like the advantage in Ultimate is always with the offense. So if you can just score 75 to 80% of your O points, you're going to be in a really good position to win a title. And it doesn't really matter whether you're in a pandemic year or in a normal year. That's just like how it works. Yeah, we've seen great defensive teams get a win. I mean, people are probably going to look back and point to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, what's the most notable defensive winning team of recent years? Like, all the top teams have a great O and D line. But, I think people maybe go, oh, well, look at Pony. Look how they destroyed Revolver in 2018 with their defensive strategy. That's true. But let's be honest, the reason that team was as good as it was and the reason it was in the final at all is because they had Jimmy Mickle and Chris Kocher on the offensive line. Like, they're not getting past Sockeye in semis without that offensive line. Sorry. Like, those were two amazing offenses that went back and forth. There were very few breaks, and Pony came out on top. And then, yes, Revolver was weaker that year and got mowed down, but, like, ultimately, Pony's offense is the reason they won that title, even if the defense was the star of the championship game. And I think you look at the same thing, across the divisions. Typically, maybe the notable exception, you could argue, is Brute Squad, a team that's won a lot of titles with maybe its D-line kind of starring as the main event. But I think that undersells how good they are offensively. And, they have a little bit more fluid lines than a lot of teams. Still, at the end of the day, a team that doesn't have a great O-line cannot win. And I look at Scandal 2019. Scandal, incredible D-line, probably the best in the country. Would get 5 or 6 breaks a game. The O-line wasn't good enough, and they lost. They got bounced in pre-quarters, right? And it's when your O-line bleeds breaks, you just are not going to have a chance to win the championship. It's that simple. The teams are too good, and if you give away a couple 2-3 breaks early, it's often very difficult to catch back up. All right, Pavel is here. Pavel is here as a team with a great defense. Speaking of that, Pavel Yanis, adding you here. Let's get you connected in here on Deep Look. Pavel, you're here. What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
No. So, you posed the question, has there been a team that relied on their defense to almost win a title? And I'm like, come on, dude. Yeah, 2019, obviously, like, we lose in pre-quarters or quarters if Chicago doesn't have the best D-line in the country. So I just want to stick up for my guys on defense. We had a very mediocre O-line, And it's it wouldn't be fair for you to slander the defensive guys like this on this very prestigious Twitter Spaces that we got going on right here. So yeah, just want to put it out there that there is some evidence that defense is kind of important.
I'm not saying defense isn't important. But let's also recognize that even though the game was very close at the end, Sockey's superior offense carried them to the title in 2019. And go ahead.
No, I mean, totally can't argue against it. But at the same time, we did bleed 3 breaks or 4 breaks, maybe even 5 breaks in the first half. And we did get back into it. So it's like,
that's true.
They're just putting it out there. No, I want to stick up for my guys.
No, I mean, I hear it. I think there's no question Chicago's defense, particularly the multiple look zone, was giving teams trouble all year. Throttled pony in semis. And I think, it was obviously ended up being a very exciting game down the stretch against Sockeye. But again, I think it's more the exception to the rule. And it's not like, let's be honest, it's not like Machine was a mediocre O-line. I mean, I know you said that. Maybe a little bit of self-modesty there, but I think clearly Machine's O-line was had the ability to score quickly and in bunches. I mean, there were plenty of possessions during the season and at Nationals where Machine's offense would score in 3 passes. So I think it's a stretch to call it mediocre. I mean, maybe by the standards of the top 5 teams, but still a very good offensive team.
Maybe if you think so. Can I ask a different question?
Please.
So there's been news, over the last couple of months of several teams not participating this year, especially on the women's side. But now that USAU has come out and said the qualification process is going to rely on 2021 results, do you see any of these teams coming back to play this year, or are they just going to give up hope for 2022 Worlds?
Well, I think that we are going to see teams ultimately decide to play. When? I can't say that for sure. I think there will be teams who decide not to play basically at all until the series. But some of the teams, so there have been a lot of rumors. I've heard about Fury not playing for months. And I was on the phone this week with Carolyn Finney, and there's no decision yet. I think initially the expectation that the team had was that there just wasn't even going to be a club season. And then USA Ultimate came out and said, yes, there is going to be a club season. And now that you have this new Worlds qualification opportunity only available to teams that participate and go to the series, yes, I do think that's going to nudge some teams that maybe were fence sitting into actually playing. I mean, here's the thing. It's May 28th. Most people who want a vaccine are fully vaccinated at this point. I think that describes the vast majority of Club Ultimate players. And I think as people get more comfortable going back out to a restaurant, going back out to, play mini or pickup, there's going to be a sense of momentum towards actually wanting to play. Because I think it's easy to say you're not going to play when there's no Ultimate happening yet. And it's, your mindset is it's not time, we can't compete yet. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The thing is, the pandemic is in many ways, and, obviously knock on wood, coming to an end in the United States. And I think as the weather warms up, people get outside and start playing more, and the club season actually starts, and teams go to Pro Elite Challenge, and it goes fine. People are going to start to feel like, hey, yeah, we want to get back out there. We want to be with our teammates. We want to play. And I just think that the rate that happens at is going to be different for various teams. So, yeah, thanks, Pavel. Ooh, I see Toro Ultimate in here. I don't know who's running the Toro Ultimate account. I'm going to request that Toro Ultimate get in here because I would love to hear about Toro and the upcoming Richmond Cup. So whoever you are for Toro, let's chat about Richmond Cup. For those that maybe aren't following along, the Richmond Cup is coming up now in 2 weeks. It's this new tournament being put on by XII Brands, and it's got a $10,000 prize purse. The team list has been available for a little while, although the teams are sort of for the most part, not teams that you've heard of. Like, they're being pulled together for this event in a sense. Toro is one that is kind of a brand name team, and team lists are starting to come out. So we're starting to see the players that have registered, and hey, there's going to be some really good players here. This is going to be a fun tournament. Ultiworld is going to be there. We're going to be doing video and reporting all weekend. We're working with XII Brands to put out a really nice post-produced version of the championship game, which, the winning team is going to get $7,500. So, I literally don't think there's ever been an Ultimate tournament where you could win this much money for winning the event. The Washington, D.C. team looks really good. Sandy Jorgensen, Alan Kolick, Kelly Hyland, Christian Johnson, Christian Boxley, Jenny Fay, Amy Zhou, Cranston, Kelly Ross. So, kind of a mix of folks who've been playing for Space Heater and those who've been playing for Truck Stop and Scandal in recent years. I think probably the biggest challenge to them is going to be the Philly team. You got Joe Freund, Linda Morse, Danielle Byers, Calvin Trissolini, Raha Mosafari, Nikki Spiva, Amber Sinacrope. That's a fun pickup. Max Charles, Sean Mott. So, it's like AMP plus a few, and maybe mostly AMP. That team is going as Philly All-Stars. So I think those are probably your favorites, like off the top. Toro maybe has something to say about that. And there's teams from other places as well. Baltimore, Lynchburg, a few Virginia teams. This team is from multiple cities. I recognize some New York names, but also some Pittsburgh names, folks from all around. Sadie Jezierski going to be on this team. This is Dirty and the Wizards. Let's see who else. Jesse Sun. So a lot of names that I don't necessarily know, but I think this should be a very cool tournament. And talk about turning up the intensity in a hurry. People are going to be like, oh, we're getting back out here playing some Ultimate on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it's going to be like, there's huge money on the line. I'm excited to see what it looks like. If I have to pick right now, I think I'm taking Philly over DC in the final. That's my pick. But I won't be surprised if it goes another way. You can check that out, richmondcup.com/teams, if you're interested in seeing that. Again, the floor is open right now. If you want to jump in here, just request. I'd love to get you in. You can ask a question. You can make a comment. Whatever's on your mind here on this Friday afternoon, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. But right before the long weekend, I hope everybody has fun plans for their Memorial Day, even if you're not traveling or anything. It's going to be nice to have this long weekend as the weather gets warm. Looks like Pavel's got another question, so we'll get Pavel back in here. I know Pavel's been playing for a while and probably excited to get rolling with this AUDL season.
It's true, but I had a much more... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes, I can.
Where's the merch store? The people want the Ultiworld merch store. What's going on? What's the holdup, man?
Well, the answer is the merch store is in progress, and we are working on sort of our finalizing our set of our first designs that we're going to have up in the store. I can report that a full order of Discmania Disc Golf discs stamped with the Ultiworld logo has arrived, and we are going to be selling those either by the disc or in a set. I mean, maybe it's the wrong time to sell disc golf discs because people are ready to start playing Ultimate again, but I think for those that have found that they enjoy disc golf, we've got some awesome options for folks, and I think they're going to look really cool with the Ultiworld stamp. I expect the merch store to be rolling out probably by July 1st, maybe sooner. It just depends on how long it takes to get everything ordered and set up. But looking forward, we're working with Spin Ultimate on this, and they should be... They've been great. It's been... The holdup has basically been with me. So we're getting there.
I mean, if 2020 has showed us anything, that you can always make money on disc golf. So this is a great business decision by Ultiworld. Yeah, you'll just be rolling in dough pretty soon here.
Well, how about Ella Hansen, folks? I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if...
Oh, my God. Jesus.
I know.
So good. So good.
Ella Hansen goes from never having played disc golf until the very end of 2019 to finishing in third place at the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship last weekend.
Is she already a top 5, top 10 player in the world?
I think that's a stretch. In disc golf, you kind of got to prove yourself week in, week out to get to that level of respect, I guess, to say that you're top 5 or top 10. But certainly she has the potential to get to that point. And, like, it's not impossible that she's already there.
She also won a bunch of money at that. I think, like, I don't know what the purse was, but I think she won $6,000 just for finishing third.
Not quite that much, but she did win $2,100 for a third place finish, which is a very nice payday for a disc golf tournament in third place. So yeah, and you know she was in a press conference yesterday before an upcoming tournament and did say that she might take some weekends to play a fun ultimate tournament or two, but is planning to pursue disc golf full time. And I think it's like an interesting topic of conversation. Is it easier to get good at disc golf or is it easier to get good at ultimate? I mean, I feel like the evidence is increasing towards the fact that it's easier to get good at disc golf, as we've watched a couple of notable ultimate names not only compete at the high level, but, finish in the top 25 at professional events.
I'm just happy that Brody isn't the Frisbee person anymore. Like, we don't have to talk about him anymore as the guy that once played ultimate and is now into disc golf. Like, if there's one silver lining, there's many. If there's one other silver lining of all of this, I think it's that. Well, just putting it out there.
Thanks, Pavel. Brody's played really well, but Ella clearly, a podium finish at a major championship in your first major championship after playing less than a year, basically, of competitive disc golf is pretty insane. I mean, if you're in here and you've played disc golf, you probably recognize how amazing that is. But she has the skill set. She's a super powerful thrower. She's already out driving most of the FPO division, and it'll be cool to follow that storyline as we'll see what happens. Will she come back and play more ultimate again in the future? Will she stick in disc golf where let's be honest, you can make a lot more money? That she probably already has made more money in the last 6 months playing disc golf than where are the opportunities to make money playing ultimate right now? They're few and far between. Oh, all right, let's go. We've got Toro. And we'll see who we're talking with from Toro Ultimate in just a moment. Hello.
Hi. Sorry. Yeah, I think the desktop spaces are not fully optimized yet, so I didn't see your request.
That's correct.
So I flipped to mobile. This is Tanner Barkus. I've been on Toro for a few years. Charlie, I think you're asking a little bit about Richmond Cup.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about the decision to play in the tournament, whether you're trying to get that $7,500 check, just your thoughts on the tournament overall.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think we're playing with the intent to do poorly. I think we would like to play as well as we can. The team was thrown together by Christine Bookhout. She's sort of a local legend. She's been on Toro for several years. I would say the team's not exclusively Toro-based. We have some people who are hopping on from other teams, Ring of Fire, Phoenix, a couple other people as well. So sort of like, what do you call it? A lot of people who have been on Toro historically, some people who may, intend to play on Toro either this year or future years, and other people who are playing locally. So it's a nice mishmash, good opportunity to play some mixed ultimate with people who know each other well, but don't typically play together during the season.
That's awesome. Are you going to practice at all, or are you just going to show up and go for it?
We're just showing up. I think a lot of teams around here are starting to kind of get things off the ground. Obviously, with Ring, they have flyers going on sort of concurrently, so a lot of those guys are already playing. I know Phoenix has had their tryouts start. Their first round of tryouts started last weekend. We'll be having our tryouts this week. But as far as practicing for Richmond Cup, I don't think so, or at least I haven't been on those emails.
Got it. Well, it's it's exciting to see teams starting to get back out there. Like, well, just speaking for yourself, like, have you been playing a lot of Ultimate over the last few weeks or months? Like, what's your level of readiness, you think, to get out to a club tournament, especially one with big money on the line?
Yeah, just a little bit in the last couple of weeks, more sporadically. I know there have been other pockets of play in the Triangle that have been going on for longer periods. So, there's various levels, I think, of fitness at this point. But I think generally, my understanding is that the Triangle is a little farther along in terms of willingness to play, comfort in playing right now compared to some other larger metro areas. Like my understanding is Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, like they seem to be, just as one example, a little bit further behind as they're sort of getting things up to speed. There may be some areas that are further along even than we are in the Triangle here, but I think generally there's a good amount of play that's starting up, either formally with teams and tryouts or informal, pick-up mini games. There's a mixed bag, but people are definitely, there's definitely a lot of momentum toward playing, at least locally.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on, and good luck at the tournament. We'll see you out there.
Much appreciated.
I actually have some breaking news to share during the show. How about that? This is rare. USA Ultimate will be moving forward with the Summer Club season based on Contingency Plan A. So what does that mean? That means that sanctioned regular season events will start in June. The championship series will occur as planned. Events in June should focus on local play and have COVID-19 precautions using the official return to play guidelines for reference, and major Triple Crown Tour events will begin in July. So basically, the club season is happening. It's going to be in full swing. That is from an email from the club competition manager, Carolina Gonzalez-Llanos, which went out about less than 10 minutes ago. So, indeed, the World Ultimate Club Championships qualification will be based using final placement at the 2021 National Championships. So we'll see what happens over these next few weeks as teams have to decide whether to opt in or out of these various TCT events. My best guess is that US Open is actually pretty competitive and has a number of teams, and the other events will be a lot more localized. I mean, I guess it's possible we could see teams decide they want to go play out in Denver for Pro Flight. What is it now? Pro Championships. But it feels like, right before the sectionals and regionals get started, that teams aren't really going to be wanting to go, take the expensive flights over Labor Day weekend and do that. But man, Ultimate's coming back. Like, it's time to start getting ready to see rosters, and it's an exciting time. So I'm gonna open it up one more time here. If you want to jump in and you're on mobile, you have to be on mobile, unfortunately, to do this. I think they're opening it up on desktop soon, but you can request to jump in. And if I don't see a request here in the next 30 seconds, I'm gonna wrap it up today. A lot of people joining us late, and I just want to say congratulations again to Keith Rayner and his wife Julia for their new little baby, 6 pounds 13 ounces, Miles James Rayner, born on Wednesday. And I'm so excited for Keith and his whole family. He'll be back with me in a few weeks after his paternity leave here on the show. Max Rick, at the last, we'll get Max in here, and this will probably be the last question today. Max, what's going on?
Hey, I was just curious if you think there's a horizon or a timeline for when the AUDL will become, or like the pro leagues in general, so for both genders, will become the top level for elite talent. Do you think that's something that is going to take a long time? Do you think that'll accelerate, or what do you think would be even like an inflection point to flip the pro leagues to be the top level?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think this is going to be a very interesting year to try to help answer it, to be honest. If we go and we look at what's going on in disc golf, the Disc Golf Pro Tour is kind of like it's not really right to call it a semi-pro league, because it's not. It is more professionalized than what we see in Ultimate. But they basically had the entire COVID year of 2020 with their competition as the sole focus of fans and professional players. There were no majors until the very end of the year. Basically, the Pro Tour was the only game in town. And they went from feeling like a little bit of a second tier part of the tour to completely dominating the professional scene, and now feeling like they have an incredible amount of momentum. They have like 25,000 subscribers to their live streaming channel, and they've really just jumped up a couple of levels as disc golf has also grown in a tremendous amount over the last 18 months. If we look at Ultimate, the AUDL is maybe not going to have quite that same setup, but for the next month at least, the AUDL is going to be the only competitive Ultimate happening. And with the club season likely to be significantly diminished in terms of the teams that are participating at top level events, I think that AUDL is going to be in this position to get a lot of attention and eyeballs. Because if you're really missing Ultimate, I feel like people are going to want to tune in and watch some of these AUDL games, even if they've not been very invested in the past. I hope, as a result, that the Western Ultimate League and the Premier Ultimate League also take advantage of this opportunity to have games, have something, and that's been the plan that's been communicated. But it does feel like the AUDL is sort of uniquely positioned to have this opportunity to generate a lot more fandom within Ultimate, because it's going to be this primary thing that's happening over the next few months, especially as you're not going to have the same kind of split with the club season kind of picking up and people starting to tune in the summer, with the semi-pro league starting usually in April. Whether that means that this is going to be the inflection point towards the semi-pro leagues taking over as kind of like the top place to compete, probably not, but it's never felt like more of an opportunity than it does this year. And there are players who are starting to choose to compete in the AUDL rather than on the top club team in their city. That's really not happened very much in the past. And you're seeing whole cities focus on the AUDL over club. What is that all going to mean for the future? I think this is going to be a just truly a fascinating year to pay attention, because are we going to see numbers up on AUDL games? Are we going to see fandom up? With so little Ultimate having happened over the last year, I think there's a lot of pent up demand. And so I won't be surprised if the AUDL gets a lot more interest than they have in the past. So what that means for the long term, well, we will have to wait and see. But it's definitely something that I'm focusing on this year and I'm talking to folks about. So excited to see how it all shakes out. And that will do it for this edition of Deep Look. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, congrats to Keith Rayner and his family. I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.